In the video before this one, I showed you how to get this resin and alcohol ink effect, eliminating all the white blobs. Let's have fun with that in coasters 3 different ways. Hi everyone, it's Miriam with a Y. For today's project, we'll need some resin that cures hard, not flexible, and ideally resists yellowing. We'll want alcohol ink in a few colors. I've chosen Keelty inks for my colors today because I love how smoothly they behave in resin. We'll need Pinata Blanco Blanco or white to color the resin that we'll pour on top. And for fun, you might want a pearl ink. I'm mixing up enough resin for 3 thin coaster-sized pieces, so in this case, just about 100 milliliters, or a little over 3 ounces of resin. I make sure to mix my resin for 3 minutes while scraping the bottom and inside wall of the cup. You'll see striations in the resin early in the mixing phase, which will disappear as the resin becomes better mixed. But continue mixing for the full 3 minutes. Don't worry too much about bubbles. Those are completely normal, and depending on your resin, they should be easy to eliminate in a bit. I've got my molds on a piece of paper just to make it easy to turn them if I want later. If you've got a lazy Susan, that's helpful when working on more than one piece at a time, but this paper trick will work if a spinning thing isn't handy. I pour resin into all of my molds, and remember to leave room in each of them for adding more resin later. And I also save about 20 to 25% of my currently clear resin also for later. After the very necessary check for bubbles along the inner edges of the molds, because bubbles love to hide out there. After dislodging those bubbles, a heat tool does an awesome job of eliminating all those that haven't risen and popped all by themselves, because a lot will. I'm going to be pseudo-symmetrical while adding the inks, which is going to bum out my mom because she is not crazy about my resin art when it's too symmetrical. But the reason I'm going kind of symmetrical is so that you can really see the movement of the inks in this process. I think, or at least I hope, it'll be easier to, gauge how the inks moved or didn't move if you're looking at a symmetrical piece. Sorry, Mom. I'm also going to try and make roughly the same pattern in all 3 coasters, also to make it easier for comparison later. Remember, in this process, you're adding all your color without dropping any white ink, which ordinarily would help to isolate colors. So think about any colors that you pour on top of each other to avoid creating colors that you might not want. So like you don't want to put yellow on top of purple, for example, or green on top of red. Next to red, okay, but not on top of. Things like that will cause like browns and grays and colors you might not want. After putting my colors down in coaster number 1, I'm going to add pearl ink, and enough to cause it to fall to the other side. My goal is little shimmery spots showing up on the reverse. Now you can do this with white ink, but the drops you have on the other side would be white, and well, most of us don't like that. That's why I'm doing it with the pearl, to show you what happens if you add white like this first. So to get the colors in all the molds to look cloud-like and to get interesting ripples, it's time to make our white mix. I'm adding the equivalent of something like 30 to 40 drops of white ink to the remaining resin in the cup, and I'm mixing it in well. I'm after a white that's somewhere between skim milk and, I don't know, 2% milk in opacity. But I encourage you to play around with this. You might like a less opaque mix, or you might want a more opaque one. They all will have interesting effects, so try it all different types of ways. With the mix made up, I'm going to pour it right over my colors now. And then to ensure that I have some sparkly bits drop to the other side, I'm adding more pearl, because, you know, I do love me some sparkle. Now let's turn the other two closer to us so that we can play with them. Since the dark center migrated so much on the piece on the right, I'll save that one for hand manipulating. I'll do that one last. For this one, I'm going to pour the white mix in a semi-random thin line. I want to cover a good portion of the surface, but covering every millimeter is not necessary. This white mix will spread some in the resin. For the last coaster, I'm pouring in a somewhat thicker stream of white. The pattern is not that important because I'm going to now swish all of this around. Now, how you swish is up to you. You can make any swirly pattern you want. Just avoid touching the bottom to protect your mold. You don't want to scratch it with whatever it is that you're swishing around in the resin. We'll see these get demolded next, and then make sure to stay tuned for something completely different, namely, what happens to resin pieces I don't love. It's kind of awesome. It's been 24 hours and these pieces are ready to pop out of the mold. I get asked a lot, how long does it take for a piece to cure? It really depends a lot on so many things. First off, what resin are you using? Some resins cure faster than others. What temperature is the room that you're working in and where the piece will be curing? The temperature of your resin when it went in? Did you warm the resin first? What humidity level do you have? What did you add to the resin? There are so many variables. On average, most artist grade resins have a cure time of about 24 hours, and most will cure to their full rock hard state, if they get to be rock hard, within 3 days. But again, if you're in a warmer environment, that's going to speed up. The thickness of the piece that you poured will affect it. The thicker a piece is, the faster it will cure. You would think it would be the other way around, but that's not the case. And the reason for that is resin cures by what's called an exothermic reaction. And that means by creating heat, because resin cures by heating itself up. The more of it there is, the warmer it can make itself, and the warmer it is, the faster it cures. So if you're working in a warm studio, or you live in like Florida or Texas or Arizona, places like that where it might be warm most of the time, you've got an advantage over those of us who are up in the north and we have winter to contend with. There are some resins, two resins can be made by the same company. Like, for example, I love CLEARCAST, but I also love another resin made by the same company called Liquid Diamonds. That resin cures slower than CLEARCAST. One of the reasons I love CLEARCAST is because I know that in 24 hours, I have a rock hard piece that I can easily pop out of the mold without much concern. The top layer might take a few more days to really solidify, But with ClearCast, I kind of always know that I'm safe. So with that said, let's pop these babies out. And I'm just going to do them in the order that I poured them. So this is the one where I dropped a lot of pearl ink. So I'm expecting to see a lot of little pearl drops through that went through all the way to the bottom on the other side. Alrighty, let's see. It's coming out easily enough. Okay, there's our edge. Very nice. And yes, we do have a lot of dropping of the ink, the pearl to the other side, but it is kind of sparkly. So it's kind of cool. I think I would be more angry at it if it was little white dots. But little sparkly dots, that's fun. I'm okay with that. So that gives you an idea of what will happen. And you still have that kind of puffy effect throughout. Next up, we have this one. This is the one where I just poured a thin line of the white and resin mix throughout the piece, but didn't manipulate it in any way beyond that. And it's really interesting how, first off, the white really sinks, and so we only are left with these really thin, sort of like spider web-like lines showing us where we had originally poured the white, and then how the periphery sort of comes in toward the center so that we can see the colors along the edge. Okay, let's see what this gives us. Now, what we should get is absolutely no white drops sinking to the other side because all the white was mixed into resin. So here is our edge. And there we go. That is pretty awesome. I love this look. I just do. It's very fluffy and it looks almost like quilting. It looks like it should be soft and puffy. It's like ripply clouds. And I love how the color is very visible, like you could see where I dropped the individual colors, and I love the dark center. Cool. Okay. And then our last one. This one should be my favorite because I love the effect that happens when I swish back and forth. So again, you hardly see the white lines anymore. You can kind of see hints of them. And again, the ink kind of moved toward the middle, so the colors on the edge are exposed. Our edge looks good. Oh, how awesome is that? Okay, this is just stunning. Oh, I love this. I love it, I love it, I love it. I love it. Look at the color and the ribboning. I'm gonna have to call these like ribbons. They're like organza ribbons running through this. I am in love. I am so in love. Okay, let me know in the comments which one of these is your favorite. Mine is this one, but you might have another favorite for an entirely different reason, and I would love to hear it. And now, as I promised, I'm going to show you what happens to the Petries I make that I don't love. Well, some pieces just don't make my heart sing. But I hate the idea of just throwing them out because, resin isn't cheap, and adding it to landfills isn't great for the environment. But I've got a longtime friend named Lisa Ramlow who is a genius with wood. And recently she started turning wood. Now, if you don't know what that is, it means she can transform a chunk of wood like this into this. Or one like this into this. And sometimes she adds resin and gets this. So she and I got to talking about my pile of resin rejects. And well, I sent her some, and she literally turned some into this stunning nightlight with changing lights. Wait till you see when I turn it on. If you look closely, you can see the different layers of different Petri pieces in here. Lisa recently started a YouTube channel, and she made a really fascinating video showing how she did this, which I'm linking at the top for you now and also in the description box. I highly recommend you rush over and watch that video. And while you're checking Lisa out, would you be the super kind viewers that you are by giving her a thumbs up and subscribing to her channel? It's a lovely way to encourage an amazing artist to continue sharing her gift. I really would love to see her succeed. Oh, and definitely leave comments for her too. We video creators love reading those. They're also super encouraging. Also, leave her a comment if you'd like to donate your resin boo-boos to give them a happier life in the future. Ask her about custom work too, if you have an idea of something you'd like to order made from your, lesser pieces. Remember to tell me in my comments which coaster you liked best. Give me a thumbs up if you'd like more videos, and check out more of the videos already here for you. Let your creative nature shine. Enjoy Lisa's video. See you soon. Bye now.